in 2016 when President Trump issued an executive order that banned Muslims to come to the US. One of those countries at the time was Iraq. I thought to myself, if this order was issued in 1997, I would have been precluded from coming and rejoining with my father. For me, it became very personal. The biggest problem with immigration in the United States is that...
Are you optimistic about the future of Iraq?
Success in this life and in the hereafter can be accomplished within a faith-based worldly view.
Here you have opportunity, so you know that if you really put in some hard work, you'll be able to make the money. Like, at the same time, I want to be very close to the religion. Did you find it kind of frustrating? Like, do I really have to pick between this and this?
There's a notion, Jafar, a trial and a test is only during times of adversity, struggle, and hardship. But we know that's false, right?
And you think we act like victims a lot?
There's someone behind the scenes masterminding everything, and that we have no control to change the outcome. Everything is standing against us, I think is a very defeating mindset. And I think a lot of people still have that.
Let's say, Abathar, now you're leader of the immigrant community. Here you go. Where do you start?
Honestly, Jafar, I think it's as simple as...
Before we start today's episode, I just wanted to thank you for taking the time out of your day and giving this podcast a listen. And I also wanted to remind you that the only way this podcast will ever grow is with your support and with your help. So subscribe to the podcast, like this video, and now let's get the show started.
Welcome aboard Middle East Airlines.
والمتوجهة إلى
طيران الشرق الأوسط يرحب
مدينة القدس العربية.
How are you, brother? Abathar.
Alhamdulillah, how are you? Assalamu alaikum, Sayyid Jafar.
How's it going?
Wallah, alhamdulillah, all is well.
I like to start this off with kind of a self-introduction on your end, but I like to do it in a way where you self-reflect, and the physical embodiment of self-reflection is looking in the mirror. So when you look in the mirror, who do you see?
When I look in the mirror, I see someone that acknowledges and recognizes the amazing blessing that we have to be here, that tries and attempts every single day to lead a purpose-driven life that centers around faith and relationships. And those relationships start with our commitment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then our parents, our spouse, our children, business partners, so on and so forth. So just attempting and trying every single day to become the best version of myself, and to give everything that I have into these relationships. And I think at times I'm successful, at other times I'm not successful. But in any event, the fact that we have every day to be able to get back up and continue on this journey in itself, honestly, is the ultimate blessing.
To try to be the best version of ourselves.
The most that we can, honestly, Jafar, as you mentioned, is to attempt and to try to become the best version of ourselves. And I think as long as that's the pursuit, and we're committed to that, with the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're going to be able to make progress.
Absolutely. How did you end up here? So the podcast is called Not From Here because we're originally not from here. But what's the story of the Tajaldeen family coming to America?
So it's a very interesting story. I haven't told the story in a while, actually. So my father, Sayyid Nazar, went to engineering school in Basra. He was actually one of the top 10 students in his muhafadha in the province of Al-Muthanna. In his fourth year, he dropped out because he refused to formally join the Ba'ath party, which was the ruling party at the time. So he left school, he opened his own business, and then in 1991, there was an uprising. And actually the uprising, it's referred to as Al-Intifada Sha'baniyya, is around this time of the year, was around the 15th of Sha'ban. It was self-initiated. It was a popular movement by people that were disgruntled by the ruling dictatorship at the time, the Ba'ath Party. So he joined that movement. He was very vocal. He was on the media side of things. He used to go around in a car and a megaphone and make announcements and try to motivate and mobilize people to go out and partake in this. This movement actually had a lot of traction, but then politics got involved, foreign governments got involved, and then unfortunately it was not successful. So being part of this and being at the forefront of it put him in a situation where he was wanted by the government. So he fled Iraq with tens of thousands of other individuals at the time. They left Iraq and they crossed the borders to Saudi. And basically they stayed in concentration camps for over 3 years, and in a camp known as Rafah. So my father went from Iraq to a camp in Saudi for 3 years, and then applied through the UN at the time to basically migrate to any country in Europe, Australia. He just wanted,
to leave the concentration camp.
To leave the camp and then have an opportunity to, bring us so that we can join him.
You stayed in Iraq?
Yes.
Okay.
So my mother stayed in Iraq, and I was with her. I was the only child. And when my father left, my mother was pregnant with my younger brother, Muntadar. So my father ended up coming to the U.S. As soon as he came to the U.S. and he got his green card, he petitioned and applied for my mother, myself, and my brother. So I was with my mother and my brother Muntadar in Iraq from 1990 until 1995. Then, we had to...
this was you without your dad for those 5 years?
Yes, without my dad. It was just us. And I'm very grateful to my uncles, eternally grateful to them for taking care of us, and really filling in that void. So in 1995, we had to basically go through a very convoluted system so that we can get passports. We had to change our last name, again, because my father was wanted. And then we ended up leaving to Jordan. We lived in Jordan for about 10 months, and then interviewed at the U.S. Embassy in Jordan, and then finally were able to get our immigrant visas, and then came to the U.S. in 1997. The first time that I saw my father and recognized him, obviously because he left me when I was 10 months old, was in August of 1997 at the Detroit Metropolitan Airport.
Wow.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
How much do you remember from that childhood?
I actually remember a lot.
Really?
Yes.
Like living without a father for basically you, I don't want to say matured, but I mean you kind of started to get the feel of living your childhood and your dad was not around.
Yes. So alhamdulillah, I remember a lot of my childhood. And I'll be honest with you, Ja'far, and that's why I said earlier that I'm grateful to my uncles. I did not feel a void in those 5-6 years of my father not being present for 2 reasons. One, because my mother, may Allah bless her, truly went above and beyond and just poured everything that she had with me and my brother so that we don't feel a void or feel less than anyone else around us, number one. Number two, I had amazing uncles, Amam and Khawal, that treated us like their sons, literally. And in the first few years, one of my uncles, Muhsin, I actually thought for some time that he was my father. The love and compassion and support was just remarkable. So during that period, I didn't really feel that need. But then once I came here and met my father, I think it finally hit me that, this is a different type of relationship.
Yeah.
And alhamdulillah, from there, it's been an absolute blessing to have that connection with him.
How old was your father when this started?
So my father was born in 1957. He left Iraq in 1991. So he was, 34 years old?
How old are you?
I was born in 1990.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm 33 now. I'll turn 34 inshallah next month.
But how do you feel like you're almost around the same age that this started happening to your dad? Like, how do you, when you think back and now you understand like how big of a deal it was going through what he went through, and now you have a family of your own, living all these years without his family, knowing that they're in Iraq, how does that make you feel? We have a very big problem in getting distracted too often. And this was a big problem for me. A lot of the distractions, though, came from my wrist. Because at every notification, I would have to stop, check my phone, 20, 30 minutes gone. And that was the main reason I started looking for something like Whoop. I wanted to get something that's sole purpose was just tracking my health. I got Whoop and the plan worked. And you don't realize how much you're actually getting distracted until you stop. It's fascinating how much more focused I got. If you feel like you want to cut off distractions and you just want to focus on your health, go to join.whoop.com/notfromhere to try Whoop out for a month for free. And now, back to the episode.
For me, my father is one of my role models. And I think one thing that I draw from him that truly inspires me every single day is the fact that he was steadfast and truly lived a principled-based life. There were a set of values that he centered his entire life around. Dropping out in his fourth year of college and foregoing an opportunity to become an engineer. And at the time in Iraq, every young man's dream is to finish college and then be employed by the government.
Yeah.
Right? So he let that go. Why? Because he had a principle that he was not going to formally join a party that he identified at the time was oppressive and unjust. The fact that, so after he left the university, he opened his own business and he was doing very well. Alhamdulillah, he was very prosperous. The fact that he, put that on the side and joined a revolution where he knew that his life potentially can be on the line, and in fact his life was on the line. That's why he had to flee, leaving behind his wife and his young child. For me to reflect on all of that and what he went through, and to live in a camp and to be separated from my mother for over 7 years, I can't fathom that I would be able to do what he did. He's one of many of our parents that had to make very tough decisions and had to live
very hard
through
lives.
Adversity, struggle, hardship, and had to make pivotal decisions at certain points to go from one country to another, from one world to another.
Yeah.
That's very foreign to them, so they can establish a better life for themselves,
Living in concentration
and for their
camps.
kids, right?
Yeah.
So I salute and I commend my father every single day, and for him truly he inspires me. What I can do at this point, drawing from all of that and drawing even from my mother's journey, who's also one of my role models, and just other individuals that I know and that I've been blessed to know, is I need to take what I have, first acknowledge and appreciate the endless blessings that we have, and try to become the best version of myself, for myself, for my parents, for my spouse, for my children, for my community, and just use everything that we have and this comfort that we have to be able to give back.
Yeah.
Not to take it for granted, not to feel a sense of entitlement, because we're not entitled. None of this is
a given.
Is given. None of it we deserve.
Yeah.
We were granted this, and even through these blessings, we're being tried and we're being tested. So what do we do with them is the question. And I think all of us, inshallah, are attempting to do what we can so that we can become the best version of ourselves within all of these blessings that we have.
How's your relationship like with Iraq?
I always say that part of me, a part of my mind, a part of my heart lies in Iraq. I go to Iraq frequently. I go once to twice a year for a number of reasons. One, Iraq is it's home. It's a second home. I always say Iraq is the past, present, and future, in terms of it being the cradle of civilizations, being, the grounds for a lot of the prophets, being also, a country that hosted and housed a lot of the imams. Currently, there's over 7 imams buried in Iraq. Imam Ali alayhi salam ran his government for 4 years in the city of Kufa. It's also the present in the sense of the fact that Iraq has been through so much in the last 50 years. Dictatorship, civil war, economic instability, you name it. And every single time, through the will of the people, people were able to prevail. And a lot of people are optimistic in terms of, inshallah, what is to come, and hopefully aspiring for better and brighter days ahead. But it's also the future, in the sense that for a lot of Muslims, particularly for Shia Muslims, the city of Kufa will also be the capital of Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, and will headquarter his government one day. That draws me to Iraq. I have a lot of family that's there. And also, alhamdulillah, I've been blessed to do business, on the legal side, and also on the non-legal side, representing clients there that have interest here, and also currently working on projects with entrepreneurs, Iraqi American entrepreneurs who are in the U.S. that want to expand their businesses in Iraq, and helping them kind of navigate that and provide opportunities for them through that. And then also helping some entrepreneurs and businesses in Iraq that want to expand outside. So between family, faith, and business, there are strong ties. And I take every opportunity to
carry the bags and go.
Reinforce those ties,
Yeah.
And kind of deepen those ties so that I can be able to go back and forth, and also be able to just leverage what I have to offer value. And at the same time, I want my family to be connected. So I'm hoping that inshallah in the next couple of years, as my girls get a little bit older, and they can survive a 12-hour flight, that we can also have them go back and forth with us.
Are you optimistic about the future of Iraq?
I am optimistic. Iraq is at a pivotal point where, despite decades of struggle, hardship, adversity, war, terrorism, dictatorship, so on and so forth, it remains to be a very important country within the region. And it has an emerging economy. Iraq is a very rich country, so from an economic standpoint, there will always be opportunities. I think there has also been a lot of maturity in terms of the mindset of young men and women in Iraq.
Have you saw that?
That has evolved. I did see that. So one of the things that I always kind of looked at is for a very long time, the mindset of a young Iraqi man or woman is to basically, work for the government, to get a wadhifa. That's like the ultimate dream. But the government can only employ so many people. I think Iraq has one of the highest, government employment ratios in the world. It's not sustainable. The private sector is not as developed. So one of the transformations that I've been seeing and witnessing, especially talking to young men and women, and just being a little bit more involved in the private sector, is that there is a maturity where now men and women are looking to go into the private sector and not just rely on the government handing them over a job, so that they can get a salary at the end of the month. So there is maturity on that level that I think is important for Iraq to become a prosperous country and to have its presence economically within the region. And also from a security standpoint, alhamdulillah, things have evolved in a very positive way in the last several years. But it still needs time, and it needs a lot of work and commitment. So as long as that's there, I think things can move in the right direction. So we pray, inshallah, that they do.
You deal, you mentioned the youth in Hira. You deal a lot with the youth here too. And what can you catch up right away on the difference between the average person, youth living here and in Iraq, mindset-wise?
So there are some similarities and there are some stark differences as well. In terms of the similarities, I think every young man or woman imagine or envision some type of future for themselves, and they're invested in building that future. Now, the contexts are very different. So, for example, in Iraq, again, even with the evolution and the mindset, which is starting to happen, the traditional mindset currently of a university student is to graduate and then apply for a government job and to get a government job so that then they can open a house, get married, and have a stable life. Here, for a university student, that's not the aspiration. The aspiration, if someone is in school, is to graduate and then apply, to a company in the private sector, or to open their own practice. Or if someone's not going to school, to pursue some type of, business endeavor as a young entrepreneur. Number one. Number two, in Iraq, what you realize is people think, breathe, talk politics.
Okay.
Right? Which is also, probably very similar.
Very similar in other countries.
In other countries, particularly third world countries, Middle Eastern countries. So, you find a 5-year-old, 7-year-old, 10-year-old, talking politics.
Yeah.
And they know what they're talking about. Or at least they sound like they know what they're talking about. Here, I think maybe now because of a lot of what's happening around the world, maybe people are more conscious of the politics and how politics impacts different aspects of life. But here, I think there isn't that emphasis on politics and what politics has to offer people. And then the third thing is security and stability. And I think that's a big one. So in Iraq, even for someone that comes from a prosperous family, even someone that lives, a very comfortable life, there's always this element that due to the situation, not only in Iraq, but the region, there's always an element, a thought of instability.
Yeah.
That things can change overnight. War can erupt. There might be sanctions. Something might happen that can drastically impact a person's life.
Yeah.
So even though where they're at is home, but they know that can be disrupted at any point.
At any point, it can
right?
change. Yeah.
It's in the back of their mind. Here, I don't think we have that, and we take it for granted. I think we take that for granted, and we shouldn't take it for granted. Here, we don't think about our journey or our future or the path that we've charted for ourselves to be disrupted by a major event like a catastrophe,
right,
or a natural disaster or war or economic sanctions. For us, that those are very distant things. They might happen in Iraq or in Lebanon or in parts of Africa, but it doesn't happen in the US. That here we can draw a vision for ourselves, create a path, and as long as we take the necessary steps, we'll get to where we want to get to. And nothing is going to get in that way. So there's this sense of, security and stability.
It gives you kind of this calmness that, I'll take my time. Like, nothing's really going to happen.
I'll take my time, and
I think it's a disadvantage. It can become a disadvantage.
Yes. It can create complacency.
Yeah.
It can also create a sense of being ungrateful. And we know that, in order for blessings and bounties to continue, at the very least, you need to acknowledge and appreciate them.
Yeah.
So there, I think people have this sense of urgency also to do certain things. when they're able to, because there's no guarantees. Here, I feel like sometimes we become complacent that, I have time to figure things out, and that things are in my control. And I think that's also another part. There, I think people generally look at a lot of variables not to be in their control that can alter their life.
Yeah.
Here we have the sense that everything is
It's
within
under
our
control. Yeah. You written books or co-authored books about leadership and success. And to me, when I see that, it's at some point you saw that there was a gap that needs to be filled, and as it pertains to leadership and success and at least spreading that knowledge. And you said, okay, I'm going to write this book and fill in that gap. Where was the gap that you saw in leadership?
So the conversation, Ja'far, on leadership and success, for me personally, is a very profound one. I've been blessed, and I don't take this for granted, to have people in my life, whether it's my parents, mentors, teachers over the years, that have taught me and provided me access to a lot of knowledge, information, experiences that at a very young age gave me insight into, thinking about these things and trying to understand what these things are all about. One of the takeaways in my journey, especially in the last, 10 to 15 years, that I reflect on and think about every single day, is this idea that true success, timeless success in this life and in the hereafter, can be accomplished and can be attained within a faith-based worldly view.
Did you see that wasn't really the case, that people were not taking it from that approach? It was either you do good here or you do good there. You're not doing good in both.
So at least in my limited experience growing up, a lot of times when people talk about success and prosperity,
it's for the evil devils.
There's a negative connotation, right? There's even, this saying that you've probably heard in Arabic, that, money is the dirt of this world, right? Or that, money changes people, or that if you're rich, then you're going to deviate. And that, in order for someone to be pious and in order for someone to work and commit and to invest themselves into the hereafter, that they should be, very reserved and distant from these worldly things. So there's a lot of misinformation, misunderstandings, false perceptions about success, money, and how all of that can be reconciled, especially as it pertains to leading a life that's centered around faith. A lot of people see a contrasting, conflicting world between, money, prosperity, professional success, and faith and being committed and devout to one's relationship with God. So what I was taught, and for me that's part of my paradigm, that's part of my worldly view, is that a person can be successful and can be prosperous while they live a faith-based, faith-centered life. And that what religion does for us and what religion is intended to do is to give you a prescription on how you can achieve that success in each facet of your life. How can you become a successful son or daughter in your relationship with your parents? How can you become a successful husband or wife in your relationship with your spouse? What are your rights and obligations within a relationship that you have with your children? How can you earn money and make money in a lawful manner? And then when you make that money, what are the obligations that you have, so that not only do you take care of yourself and your family members, but you can give back, through religious obligations like khums and zakat? How do you manage day-to-day transactions? A lot of people, don't pay attention to the fact that there's a significant substantial part of fiqh that focuses on transactions, whether it's business transactions, agreements, contracts, negotiations, or even familial transactions between spouses, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So for me, it's actually very empowering now to know that I can have faith be the center of my life, and I can have faith be the ultimate guiding thing that drives every part of my life.
It's the baseline. What you're saying is it's the baseline, and I literally use my faith to be better with my mom, be better with my spouse, be better with my siblings, be better at work, do well, give back. So basically everything that I want to do in life, faith would be the baseline.
Faith would be the baseline, and faith would tell you how to do that in a way that allows you to become the best version of yourself, to achieve that success that we all desire in this life and in the hereafter. Now, applying that, living that, implementing that is the struggle. And that's why I told you, earlier on, if I'm looking at the mirror, what I can attest to is that I attempt to hopefully have faith, drive my life. And at times I'm going to be successful, and at times I'm going to be unsuccessful. And that's a struggle, and that's kind of the challenge every single day. But, we have the opportunity every single day to be able to kind of get back on our feet and give it another shot.
Yeah.
So for me, what I've learned and what I've gathered over the years is that faith is supposed to kind of empower you to truly become the best version of yourself and to elevate in every single aspect of your life, whether it's at home or being an entrepreneur or business owner or author or community activist. I'll give you that prescription.
Do you remember where you got that where you got that perspective from? And I wanted to ask you, was it frustrating growing up here? And here you have opportunity. So you know that if you really put in some hard work, you'll be able to make the money. Like, the money's not that big of a deal. And at the same time, you really, we come from a religious background, I want to be very close to the religion. So did you find it kind of frustrating? Do I really have to pick between this and this?
Growing up, that was, I think, a challenge that a lot of us experienced, is how do you reconcile all of that? Can I reconcile it? Or do I have to choose one path over the other?
Especially
right?
There's a lot of noise.
Yes.
Let's say you want to work, you want to make money. Okay, go sit with that group of people. They're not that religious. Okay, no, I want to be really religious. Okay, but these people are not passionate about, they do not want to achieve much.
Yes.
So it's you want to sit with these people, but you want to do what these people are doing in their day to day. And it's kind of like this push and pull. And I don't know. The way I think about it is, God chose your father to go through what he went through for Abathar to come to America, because there's a purpose from Abathar being in America. If Abathar is going to be in America and use all the resources that are given to him, all this stability that we talked about, and not do anything with it, why isn't all the other Iraqis not here? And why did he want Abathar here? Or why did Jafar have to come from Lebanon and all Jafar's friends had to stay in Lebanon? Why are you here? Do you just want... that's the perspective that I try to live. That's how I try to make it easier on myself. Because I do feel guilty when I see some friends back home that aren't doing the best and are struggling. And it's, okay, but why am I here? Why did God choose me? Okay, I have to do something with what's given to me.
Absolutely. During times of hardship and also during times of comfort, we're being tested. We're being tried.
I think we forget, though, that part. That
yes,
when
because
stuff
a lot of
are easy,
yes,
that means we're not being tested.
Yes.
Why are only they being tested?
There's a notion, Jafar, that a trial and a test is only during times of adversity, struggle, and hardship. But we know that's false, right? You're being tried. I'm being tried at every single moment in my life, right? At all times. It's ongoing. It's you know,
It doesn't end.
The journey of life is a test, right? So we have to be alert of that, so that, again, during times of prosperity and also during times of adversity, we're asking ourselves, how can I be the best person that I can be in this situation, in this context, in all of my relationships, starting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and in all of my transactions. And if I'm comfortable and stable and I'm, let's say I'm making money, okay, how can I leverage all of that to help and empower and give, my family, my community, the underprivileged, underserved. And on the other side, if I'm being tested, let's say with money, or I'm going through some type of struggle or illness, okay, when I'm limited, am I going to be patient? Am I still going to be grateful? Am I still going to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Or am I just going to, question everything just because now I'm suffering and struggling? So being conscious of those two, different times that we all experience, I think is important. And then again, just taking every opportunity that we have to try to make the best out of the experience and just continue to grow.
It must make you very happy when you get Iraqi people from here telling you, I want to open in Iraq, or I want to do some type of project and I want to open these businesses in Iraq. Just from you knowing how bad the situation might be there for the people and seeing like, okay, my people are actually trying to give back. They didn't just come here, make their money, and now they're driving in their fancy cars with their nice bags. Like, no, now they want to give back.
Absolutely. And to kind of bring that full circle, Jafar, so, personally, I say this all the time, I take pride, full pride in being an Iraqi American. And, for me, America is a home and Iraq is also a home. And I have this sense of that I need to be the best person that I can be and, be able to give back and do whatever it is that I can in investing here in the U.S. and in Iraq and also elsewhere. I've also had the opportunity to travel to the UK, to Tanzania, to other parts of the world where I was also fortunate to work on some projects. So all of these are opportunities. All of these are platforms. So when I'm working with business owners or entrepreneurs in the U.S. that are scaling their businesses, or immigrants that are trying to bring family members, or companies that are trying to hire foreign workers and give them an opportunity to come and build their dreams here, or helping an Iraqi American open a business in Iraq so that they can employ young Iraqi men and women. For me, all of these are opportunities personally that allows me to achieve my personal why. For me, all of, whether it's the US or Iraq, they're different arenas. Obviously, I'm invested in both. I was born and raised for part of my childhood in Iraq. My family's in Iraq. We talked about, the past, present, and future, the religious ties, so on and so forth. And then also the U.S. being a place where I was born. I got my education here, my family, stability, my career, I got married here, my daughters, my community. There's a lot invested here. So all of these are different opportunities and avenues to be able to realize that why, which is working with other individuals, so that you can uplift one another, grow with one another, and be able to just bring value to anything that you're involved in.
Yeah. What's one thing that you see people do that like annoys you, like bothers you? Like whether it be in the community, like in work, like just something that you think puts us at a disadvantage as an immigrant community, because on a bigger scale, other than just the Iraqi community that you're involved in, we're part of a very bigger immigrant
Absolutely.
Arab community here.
So obviously the immigrant community is vast in the U.S. And the immigrant community is also very diverse. You know, you talked about the Iraqi community, Lebanese community, Yemeni community, the greater Arab community, and then there's also the
Middle Eastern.
Middle Eastern, the Indian community, Pakistani community, Bengali community, so on and so forth. There's similarities, but there's also some differences in terms of the context and the background and just various variables that shapes each community. One of the common issues that I realized growing up, even in my own family, is the sense of feeling a sense of being overpowered or not having the ability and the capacity to make change in this country. And always living in the immigrant mindset and in part in this kind of victimization mindset, as opposed to really taking a step back, looking at the endless opportunities that we have and looking at yourself as an agent of change.
Yeah.
That I'm able, I'm capable, I have everything that I need and more, because I think there's tremendous value that an immigrant has just by virtue of the experience that I think allows one to even have leverage in terms of what they're able to do, so that we can be the best of the best, the cream of the crop in every single space that we're in.
You think we act like victims a lot?
I think a lot of us, because of our background and because of our history and what we've gone through, we have a victimization mindset where we always think that the odds are stacked against us, that
We can't do much.
we can't do much, that there's someone behind the scenes masterminding everything, conspiring, and that we have no control to change the outcome of the reality that we are in, whether it's in business or politics or on a community level. Personally, what I've learned and what I have seen on a personal and professional level in this country is that, despite some of the challenges and obstacles and hurdles that all of us might struggle with, but we have a lot of opportunities, and it's on us to first and foremost truly believe in ourselves, have conviction, true conviction, conviction in the mind, conviction in the heart, that we're able to make an impact, have an influence, and to execute on it. To just sit and complain and whine and just talk about how everything is standing against us, and that it's all kind of pre-programmed, and that we're just running through the motions, I think is a very defeating mindset. And I think a lot of people still
Our community
have
won't
that.
go anywhere with that kind of mentality.
With that mentality, you're just selling yourself short. You're not realizing your potential. Honestly, you're not realizing your potential on an individual level and on a community level.
We talked about leadership. Let's say, Abathar, now you're leader of the immigrant community. Here you go. Where do you start?
So I think that's a fascinating question. Honestly, Jafar, I think it's as simple as it starts with education. It really does. It starts with education. I think with all of us, the starting point is personal development. I think a lot of times we just don't spend enough time to, learn about ourselves, learn about, our strengths, our weaknesses, our inclinations, our passions, so that we have an understanding of who we are and where we can thrive in different environments. And then, just believing in yourself and putting yourself in a context where other people can also believe in you, so that you're able to execute on whatever dreams you have for yourself.
Yeah.
And just kind of having this mindset that you can be the captain of your ship, you can be the driver of your vehicle, and not giving into just kind of being a passenger, and just being a spectator in someone else's show.
I wish we were able to realize, if we put in the work in ourselves, and this is still not proven for me, like I feel like we're still trying to put in the work, potentially how much help we can do to our people here or back home. But I want to change this a little bit and talk about the field that you went to. You went into the field of immigration, and you have experience with it on the very positive end, where you were able to reunite with your father. But it's sensitive, because when you're able to help someone reunite with their father, it's a very nice thing. It's very, it gives you a good sense of pride. But on the other end, it's very sad, because a lot of times families separate. Students have to leave. They can't stay here. They can't fulfill their dream. They have to go see what they have to do in another country. So there's a lot of like push and pull. And I'm just curious, do you have this in mind when you go into a field like this, or does it kind of slap you in the face after?
So in the legal field, I've had the opportunity to practice in a number of different practice areas. But over the last several years, I focused on immigration and business law. Immigration, and I always say this, is as fulfilling and as rewarding as it gets. The reason being is because you are taking part in impacting a person's life, a family's well-being, and what we take for granted, honestly, is the fact that for millions, perhaps, and I'm not exaggerating, for billions of people, it would be their dream to be able to come to this country and to live here and build a family here. We're able to do that, right? And we were given that opportunity through, obviously, the sacrifices of our parents. With immigration, you see both sides. As you were kind of laying this out, Jafar, I was thinking about some of the deportation cases that I handled. And one in particular was for a Yemeni father who had, some issues. And because of some of the issues that he had with the law, he was placed in deportation. And he was going to be removed to Yemen. He had 2 younger sons. The mom was not in the picture. And just kind of knowing the family and getting to know them on a very personal level, I knew that.
That's what happens. You do get to know them on a personal level.
100%. And this whole sense of like draw boundaries, it's difficult to do that. You become so invested. The case becomes your case. You start to see your kids, through the lens of the children of the families that you're representing.
What if it's me that I'm being removed from my daughters?
Right. And by the way, that's actually not too distant. So if you recall, in 2016, when President Trump issued an executive order that banned Muslims to come to the U.S. from a number of countries, one of those countries at the time was Iraq. And I was actually doing immigration at the time. And when he issued that executive order, for a second, I thought to myself, if this order was issued in 1997, I would have been precluded from coming and rejoining with my father. It would have prevented me from coming and seeing my father. So for me, it became very personal that, I was in those shoes. I was that person that would have been banned. So in that case with that father,
the Yemeni father,
and the two sons, you become so invested, you put everything into the case because if that father goes to Yemen and he's separated from his children, you can only imagine what type of struggle, what type of hardship not only will the father have, but also those children to have here in the U.S., not having a father and mother in the picture. And alhamdulillah, we were successful in keeping the father here and having him rejoin with his children. But those are the types of cases that give you a sense of fulfillment, a sense of pride, makes everything worthwhile, gives you purpose in the work that you're doing. And also the other side of this sometimes is cases where you're distraught because you don't have any options, or there's, you can't do anything. I can't tell you how many times I get phone calls, WhatsApp messages, DMs on Instagram from people in Lebanon, in Iraq, in Syria, Yemen, that especially young men that, just ask, can I come to the U.S.? Is there anything that you can do?
Yeah.
And in the vast majority of cases,
there is
you
nothing.
can't. There isn't a path, a viable path. And I don't take that for granted, that I'm here and I have this ability that this person dreams of and will do anything that they can, that's within their disposal to be able to get here. So it makes the work worthwhile. But there are moments of joy and happiness when you're able to accomplish those desirable outcomes for clients, and then also moments of disappointment when you're not able to do that.
Is there a case that stuck with you?
Yes,
Like a case that was near and dear to your heart and it stuck with you?
there is.
What happened?
So unfortunately with this case, just because of the sensitivity of the case, I can't disclose too much information. I always thought about, if I'm able to actually make a documentary about this one particular case, just because of the journey that I went through with the client. But basically, the client was here in the U.S., a very good person, an upright person, and he was placed in removal proceedings, in deportation, due to false allegations. He had a very sensitive case. If he was going to be deported to his country, to his native country, then potentially he would, face serious persecution that can, compromise his life. So after 2 years, I was fortunate and blessed with a team of attorneys to be able to facilitate for this person to be removed to another country, not his native country. And then from that, country, he had an opportunity to go to Europe and to, get permanent residency in Europe. Now he's in Europe, and alhamdulillah, he's able to, live a normal life. The reason why that case was very near and dear to me, Ja'far, is because he was detained in a county jail in Port Huron. And over the course of 2 years, I think I visited that jail over 25 times.
Wow.
94 straight. Forgot the exit, but there was a route that I used to take. And the reason why I visited this guy over and over and over is because the only hope that he had was for me to meet with him and share with him some news of progress in the case. And at different points in that case, there was no progress. In fact, at certain points, there was regression. But I had to some way, somehow, make the hour drive, go into the jail cell, smile, and give him
a little bit of hope.
Even if it's a glimmer of hope, just so that he can continue. It was a roller coaster ride.
Did he have kids?
He didn't have kids. He was engaged, and then obviously because of this, that didn't go through. But, you know, after 2 years, and during the two years, because of the sensitivity of the case, he was actually in detention, so he wasn't out on bond. So, you know, just kind of seeing that journey going from the U.S. to a third world country, and then to Europe, and to go from being in a jail cell where he was also assaulted a couple of times for 2 years, to finally being able to reestablish yourself, and for him to also reunite with his family, because he didn't see his family for over 10 years. For me, again, gives me a sense of fulfillment that this is something worthwhile, that this is something that can be transformational for people. It can be life-altering for people. And for me to play a role, even if it's a small role, is something that I appreciate, and that I'm grateful for.
Take me on the other part of, that's a beautiful part of the job. What's the dark part of the job, or the dark side of the job?
The dark side of the job is honestly working with families, and some of the families are here in the U.S. that just run out of options. So there are some families here in the U.S., some of them have children that have been here for decades, and there's just no way for them to get lawful status. They'll never be able to get a green card or get a citizenship. So they're undocumented. Unless the laws change, which is not foreseeable, at any point they can be detained, they can be placed in jail, and then deported to their native countries.
Do you feel a lot of pressure?
With these types of clients, or generally in my practice?
In your practice.
A tremendous amount of pressure every single day. And it's pressure that...
Like, that guy's life was between your hands.
100%. And I'm not going to lie to you that there were many nights where, you know, I lost sleep, and I used to share that with my coworkers. And I used to share that with my wife without, of course, sharing with her the details, just because of, you know, attorney-client privilege, which is also, by the way, a difficult part of what we do. Is sometimes you want to talk to someone, you want to vent, especially if it's a spouse, but you can't, you know, talk about the case. You can't talk about the details. There's a tremendous amount of pressure, but I think, you know, this pressure is one that also allows you to truly be invested in the work, and also brings a lot of fulfillment. Obviously, you're going to have wins and losses. You're going to have joyous moments, and then also moments of disappointment.
Where do you go to? Who do you, if you can't talk to your wife about like about the details, and you can't really let it off your chest like you want to, what do you do?
So from a practical standpoint, you can talk to your coworkers, especially other attorneys. I'm very fortunate to have amazing business partners, so I can talk to them, and talking to them, not only are you know, venting, trying to just release some of that pressure, and channel that stress, but you're also getting feedback, input, ideas. We brainstorm all the time. And then at times, Ja'far, I just, you know, get in my car and I just drive. For me, driving alone with a nice cup of coffee is very therapeutic also.
How much of a toll does it take to where it starts affecting your personal life? Because I don't believe there is... People talk about work-life balance a lot. I think that work and life kind of happen together. You know, it's not like this person is talking to you. You just drove an hour away, and he's pleading to you like, I'm really scared to die. Like, if I go back to my country, I don't know what's going to happen. And then you make that drive home, and then you just walk in like nothing happened. I don't believe it works. Absolutely. Like that. You know, so how much of a toll do you feel it took on your personal life?
So one, for me personally, Ja'far, I don't believe in this whole sense of work-life balance. For me, my mindset, my approach has always been that work needs to be integrated into your life. They're not two separate compartments. I have work and I have my life. You have your life, and a big part of your life is your work. You have to integrate work in your life so that it's conducted in a way that allows you to accomplish and achieve your dreams and aspirations, and also positively feeds into everything else that you're doing. Similar to the fact that with faith, a lot of people compartmentalize and limit faith to being one aspect of their life, and then they look at, okay, I have my faith, I have my family, I have my job, I have my community. No, what faith should be is
together.
It should drive through an integrated system all aspects of your life. So for me, faith should be integrated in everything that you do, and work should also be integrated into your life. It does take a toll. And to be honest with you, I don't think anyone can say otherwise. Every person deals with it differently, but you have to manage it. And there's different ways of managing this. But to say that you can just simply leave work, exit it, and then just, go and be someone different, it doesn't work.
It's impossible.
You're sitting with your spouse, you're at the dinner table, you're playing with your kids, and you're thinking about that father that has 2 kids, that has a hearing tomorrow, and his life and his children's life is on the line.
He might be playing with his kids for the last time.
Right? So you're thinking about all of these things.
Yeah.
But I think every person is different, and you just have to find ways to manage it properly.
If you sit down and reflect on a very difficult time in your life, what was happening in that part of your life?
Just kind of witnessing even what's happening around the world, and looking at, thousands, millions of individuals who are underserved, underprivileged, leaving every single day in the morning not knowing if they're going to come back home. Also makes you reflect on the blessings that you have, and also makes you reflect on what you can do to be an agent of positive change, where you can pour value to have some type of impact, make some type of dent in the lives of these individuals. My trip to Africa was also a trip where I had very conflicting emotions. I was very uplifted, inspired, motivated, happy to just be there.
What happened in Africa?
So through the Mainstay Foundation, we have an initiative where we provide humanitarian support, particularly water wells to underserved, underprivileged communities in parts of Africa, such as Tanzania, Kenya, and also in India. So back in 2021, I went to Tanzania for 10 days. And I went to inspect and audit some of the water wells that we created, and also to go around to the villages and, to just kind of indulge and immerse myself with the villagers, so that we can really identify and see what we can do and what additional projects we can create there. So for me to go there and just see the extreme poverty, people absolutely have nothing, right? Like they're starving. They're walking 2, 3, 4 kilometers every single day, no exaggeration, just to, bring home some clean water. And usually it's the women and children, because the fathers are working, trying to provide for the family. For you to see all of that, to see children as young as your own children. There's one particular girl that I shared her story with you in the past, Zainab. She's 4 years old.
What's her story?
So Zainab's story is one where we were inspecting one of the water wells in Kigoma, in Tanzania, and we were going around taking pictures, and we see a flock of children coming towards us. They're all smiling, they're all very happy. So, we smile back, and we had one of the scholars with us, and he was also very happy to see them. So, we just innocently engage with these young children. And just honestly, in those moments, you're speechless. You don't know what to say. You're just reflecting. You're navigating a plethora of emotions that you have.
What are some
you're
of those emotions? Some of those thoughts?
Uplifted, inspired, happy, but at the same time, upset, disappointed, angry. You're reflecting on what you have and what they don't have and what you can do. You're remembering your children and what they have, and you're going through all of that, right? You're going through all of these thoughts and all of these emotions. So as I was, exchanging some words with these children, and we had a translator, just, checking up on them, asking them, what's your name? How old are you? We passed out some simple gifts that we had. Also, I see a young girl, and she just struck me. She just resonated with me, and I approach her, and through the interpreter, I find out that her name was Zainab. She was 4 years old. So right away, I drew a direct correlation to my daughter Amina, who was 4 at the time. And what was fascinating, Jafar, about Zainab is that she's 4, and she had strapped around her back her 6-month-old younger brother, Hamza. And I have a picture of it. And when you zoom in the picture, you'll see it. So
6 months?
She's walking. She's 4 years old, and carrying on her back, strapped around her, is her 6-month-old brother Hamza, who was actually sleeping at the time. And then seeing that, and then we had an opportunity to talk to her mom. So her mom told us basically that the father was out fishing, and she was at home. She was pregnant, attending to the other children, and then cooking. And then because no one was able to take care of Hamza, basically Zainab
put him on her,
had him on her back, and then she was going around with him. So in my mind, in those moments, I'm looking at Zainab, literally looking through her eyes. I see also my daughter Amina, and I'm just thinking about truly how blessed, how fortunate we are for Amina to have the comfort, peace, stability, everything at her disposal here in the U.S. And you have this 4-year-old beautiful Zainab, who is literally carrying her family on her shoulders, on her back. So while the probably typical, regular, normal experience for my 4-year-old Amina is to play with her toys, right, or watch TV, or engage with her friends. That's what she's doing. That's what a typical 4-year-old does in the U.S. You have this 4-year-old in a remote village in Kigoma carrying her brother on her back to support her mother. Very contrasting world, right? You have someone that's playing with toys and living their childhood. And inshallah, God blesses all of our children. And inshallah, we're all doing what we're doing to provide the best life for them. And then you have this 4-year-old, that has the pressure of carrying her brother on her back. And she was doing it with a smile. And I think that's really what got to me, is that she was doing it with a smile. She was doing it with grace, not whining and complaining, about it. And then you see other children walking kilometers, carrying buckets on their heads, to bring water to their family. So you see all of
It's
that.
almost a picture that you don't think you'll see. Like, you don't think that's real. You just think
Yes.
you'll see that in a movie, maybe.
Yes, you see it in movies. You see
You
it in
don't
magazines.
think this is real life. We're so detached from those pictures. So seeing it in real life must have really shook you up.
Absolutely.
Do you still think about Zainab?
I think about Zainab every single day. I really do. And I made a covenant when I was there internally that for me, as long as God gives me the strength, that I'm going to do everything in my capacity through the resources that I have to be able to serve the likes of Zainab. And I would love to. And I would say that's actually one of my objectives, one of my dreams. I would love to go back one day to that same water well, because I know where it's at, through the brother that was taking us around, and perhaps to meet Zainab again, and to meet her brother.
Have you not met her
Hamza.
again? That was the only
So
time?
I went once.
Okay.
I think it's going to be difficult to meet her again, to be honest with you.
Why?
So we can go within the vicinity of where her family lives, and then hope that we run into her, right? Because it's not a situation where they're part of an organization or there's a database. It's a village, right? But my commitment and the commitment of the team that I'm fortunate to be part of through the Mainstay Foundation is to help and serve the likes of Zainab, whether it's in Tanzania or Kenya or other parts of Africa, so on and so forth. And the reason being is because alhamdulillah, God gave us the opportunity to be able to have the access and the resources and the strength to be able to serve those individuals, and we're going to make the best out of it. But one thing that experience left me with, Ja'far, is how real all of this is, and how truly the world's a very small place. There were a lot of moments when we were flying around in Tanzania, and you're just kind of absorbing everything. By the way, Tanzania has beautiful, beautiful landscape. It's just, remarkable. You're looking around, and a lot of times, you think to yourself, I'm in the middle of nowhere. Like, you look around, there's nothing, right? Just open plains and remote villages. But then you look around and you see these children, you see these women, you see mosques, you see people attending gatherings and celebrations.
There's kind of
schools,
a structure and a community.
Right? You look at that and you say, no, I'm not in the middle of nowhere. I'm amongst brothers and sisters. I'm amongst people that share my value set. I'm amongst people that, pray the same way I pray. And for me, through that experience, to be honest with you, I felt like I got more, I received more, I benefited more than what I offered. The inspiration, the motivation, the lifetime lessons that I got from that experience, I think has altered and will continue to alter, my mindset on many things for the rest of my life. So I'm very grateful for everyone that contributed to making
How long
that
do you
experience
stay there usually?
a possibility.
How long do you stay there usually?
Around 10 days.
Okay, so during these 10 days, you're seeing all these things. Leaving somewhere like that, after 10 days, you get connected. You're talking about moments where you feel very close to these individuals. You're talking about like in the moment reflections, like emotions eating you up by the second. Starting to prepare to leave a place like that and come back to your very stable, nice life. How does that make you feel?
I think if you talk to anyone, Ja'far, that has been through that experience, and about a year ago, we took a group of about 20 individuals, educators, medical professionals, and community activists to Tanzania, and they went through an experience where they went into a village and The educators went to the schools, the doctors and the nurses performed medical services, so they were able to engage in and help and benefit the communities. The common theme that you're going to always hear from anyone that's coming back is that they always feel that they left behind a piece of them, and that you want to go back, and that you have to go back because of this connection that you establish with these individuals, and also what you identify as a life-changing benefit for you personally in your growth journey.
Very selfish.
Very selfish. A lot of times when people go from, prosperous development countries to third world countries, there's this kind of sense of, you're going to go to help and assist and do something, for people that are in need. Yes, you're doing that, but the other side, which might even be of greater importance and value for you, is that you're also benefiting. You're a beneficiary. You're a receiver of tremendous value that's going to allow you to grow as a person, as a professional, as a father, as a mother. Your paradigm can shift once you go and you engage in that experience, because what you learn from these individuals, from the lives that they live, is one
lives.
That's transformational. Very modest, very simple, but very grateful individuals. The gratitude you see in their eyes, you see in their smiles, it resonates with you, and also makes you question why all of us at times here, with everything that we have, we're still doubting, questioning, and
it's like we look for a reason to be upset about anything,
we look for reasons to be upset. We're in search of maybe certain things that are not attainable, and we're just not content. I think
Do you think they're
the secret
content?
recipe to happiness is just being content.
Do you think they're content over there?
Honestly, from what you see, from like the energy and the vibe, you see a lot more contentment than here, at the very least. You really do. And I think that's the most inspiring part of it. Because then what you see is that there's no positive correlation between contentment, happiness, satisfaction, and how much you have.
Yeah.
Because if there was a positive correlation, then we should be a lot more content here than people there.
True.
But you see it otherwise.
I want to ask you a question. It's kind of related to what you do. What do you think about the migrant situation that's happening on the border?
So historically, Ja'far, the biggest problem with immigration in the United States, and that's why it's been a prolonged problem that never seems to correct itself, is that it's politicized. The politics gets in the way. There's two different political agendas when it comes to immigration, which impairs the judgment of politicians to create laws in a way that allows the country to create an immigration system that factors in important interests. Because at times what presents itself are competing interests. So one of the interests that the government has, that the people have, even citizens, is to make sure that you protect your borders, and there's laws that facilitate who comes in and who leaves. It can't just be
it's open for
and
anyone
loose,
to come,
right?
yeah.
Because that's going to create a lot of security problems and economic problems. But there's also another interest, especially here in the U.S., being a country of immigrants, to provide a platform for people, good people, who are being persecuted or who don't have opportunities to come here and use the system, so that they can live here and realize their dreams.
Right.
So you also want to give those individuals an opportunity. And then you have millions, over 11 million people undocumented in the U.S. that live here. A lot of them have families. They've been here for decades. They have children. They pay taxes. They work. They contribute. They give. That don't have papers. At any point, they can be placed in removal proceedings and they can be deported, which doesn't make sense. They're here. They live here. Some of them don't even know, their own native countries. They've never been there.
Yeah.
So how do you reconcile all of that and create a system that protects the borders, but provides the opportunity for people to come and get status and establish themselves. The reason why we haven't attained that yet is because that hasn't been the pursuit, to be honest with you.
You think that's the only
That
thing?
hasn't been the pursuit.
Okay.
The pursuit is trying to leverage immigration to advance
A
the political agendas on both sides.
Okay.
If that's going to continue to be, the driving factor behind immigration law, we're always going to be in this turbulent, tumultuous state. You need people that are going to remove the politics from it, look at the system, look at these values, and be able to create a system that factors in all of them, which I think is doable and has been done by other countries, but it just needs the will beyond just the politics.
So there is a political agenda from both parties.
Absolutely.
I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while, and I learned a lot.
Thank you, Ja'far. First and foremost, to you. Appreciate you as a brother and as a friend.
Habibi.
Thank you for the platform, and I wish you all the best in continuing to grow this podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Habibi.